All right, today we're diving into one of the biggest, most high-stakes fights happening in the global food industry. We're calling it the Great Fried Chicken Race. And it's all about who's going to win Asia. This isn't just about selling a few wings, you know? It's a full-on strategic battle for market domination, and it is heating up right now. So that brings us to the big question, right? Who is actually going to win the fastest-growing protein market on the entire planet? The answer to this is probably going to define the next decade for some of America's most iconic brands. And to get a sense of the scale here of what they're all fighting for, just look at this number. 6 billion. That's how many servings of fried chicken are eaten in Asia every single year. It is a mind-boggling number, and it represents the ultimate prize in this whole race. Now this chart, this really sets the stage. If you look back home in North America, chicken restaurants are growing at a whopping 9% a year, just totally dwarfing the burger scene. And it's exactly this explosive growth at home that's fueling the ambition to go out and conquer Asia. So why Asia? And why now? Well, it's pretty simple. Asia already serves more fried chicken than North America. And by 2026, it's going to be the absolute must-win battleground for any brand that has serious global ambitions. So, who are the main players in this race? We're going to track 3 major American brands. And what's so fascinating is that each one is making a completely different bet on how to win. Let's meet the contenders. Okay, here's the tale of the tape. First, you've got Wingstop, the super fast, super efficient speedster. Then in the other corner, there's Popeyes, the heavyweight, the giant, making a huge long-term investment. And finally, you have the challenger, Dave's Hot Chicken, who's using brand hype and some very smart corporate connections to get ahead. 3 totally different playbooks for the same massive prize. So now let's really get into it. Let's break down these playbooks. We're going to look at the specific moves, financially, operationally, marketing, that each of these brands is making. This right here is where the race gets really interesting. First up is Wingstop. Their entire game plan is built around one single thing: speed. We're talking an asset-light model that's just designed for incredibly fast, efficient expansion. Think small, think digital, think fast. So how do they actually pull this off? Well, they pick franchise-friendly markets like Thailand and India. They use these tiny footprint stores to avoid messy real estate deals. Their whole system is built to plug right into super apps like GrabFood. And their smart kitchens, they're engineered for the 10-minute wait times that those delivery apps demand. It's a lean, mean expansion machine. And hey, the proof is right here in the numbers. A massive 65% of Wingstop sales are already coming through digital channels. This isn't something they had to adopt for Asia. It's in their DNA. It makes them a perfect fit for the tech-savvy, delivery-first Asian consumer from day one. Okay, now let's flip the script and look at Popeyes, because they are doing the polar opposite. They are playing the role of the infrastructure giant. Instead of speed, their game is all about deep, heavy investment and localization. They're trying to build a foundation that's going to last for decades. This is the long game. Their playbook is all about doing the homework. They're not just selling franchise rights, they're taking direct ownership in a huge market like China. They are adapting their product before they even launch, creating special Asia spicy flavors, using skin-on dark meat, which is preferred in China, and even rolling out a full vegetarian menu for India. This isn't guesswork, it's deep, on-the-ground research. And if you want to know just how committed they are, look at this. $45 million. That's the direct ownership commitment Popeye's parent company has made in China. This is not a market test, folks. This is a clear signal that they are in it to win it for the long haul, basically copying the exact same playbook that made KFC a titan in the region. And that brings us to our third contender, Dave's Hot Chicken. They're the fast-moving challenger, and their strategy, it's a masterclass in leverage. They're using the power of their parent company, Roark Capital, and all that social media buzz to punch way above their weight. So what they're really doing is taking smart shortcuts. That Roark network, it can compress what would normally be years of finding franchisees into just a few months. All their user-generated content on TikTok and Instagram, it travels around the world for free, no big ad budget needed. And they've cleverly used the Middle East as a rehearsal, learning all these valuable lessons about things like halal certification that they can now apply directly to places in Southeast Asia. But here's the thing, a great playbook isn't enough. Asia is basically an obstacle course filled with landmines that can blow up even the best-laid plans. And the biggest risk isn't failing to get in, it's getting in without the right infrastructure to actually grow.
So let's talk about the first and maybe most common trap, getting the spice wrong. There's something called the bell pepper trap. That's when your super spicy Reaper wing tastes like a mild bell pepper to the local palate. Then you have the motorbike factor. That's your crispy, spicy coating turning to mush in the humidity on the back of a delivery scooter. The fix? You have to run small, local taste tests in each city before you launch. It can save you months of brand damage.
The next landmine is the supply chain. The empty fryer trap is a real nightmare. Imagine a grand opening, a line around the block, and no chicken to sell. It happens. Why? Because locking in quality suppliers in Asia can take a full year. So the fix is simple, but it is so critical. You secure your suppliers before you even think about signing a franchise partner. In Asia, your supply chain is your strategy.
But the biggest, most expensive mistake of all is picking the wrong local partner. That's the term sheet trap, moving too fast just to get a deal signed. See, in Asia, the relationship is the real engine, not the piece of paper. So what's the fix? You need to start building those relationships a good 18 months before you even plan to enter a market. The right partner? They basically bring the keys to the kingdom. Okay, so we've seen the contenders, we've seen the obstacle course, so what's the actual winning playbook? How do you do it right? Well, it really boils down to a few core principles.
Here are the 5 big takeaways. 1. Put finding the right local operator above absolutely everything else. 2. Focus on speed, ideally with an asset-light model. 3. Show you're serious with your own capital, especially in a market like China. 4. Get the product right. Localize it before you open the doors. And 5, and this one is huge in 2026, arrive already famous. Build a social media buzz before you even sign a lease.
And once you're on the ground, how do you know if you're actually winning? Well, you've got to track these 3 numbers like a hawk. You need over 60% of your sales to be digital to compete on the super apps. You need about $1 million in sales per store to prove you're profitable, and you need a 30-day return rate of over 30% to know for sure that your flavor is a hit.
And all of this whole race, it really comes down to one big idea: flavor arbitrage. You can think of it as this strategic window of opportunity. It's the chance to cash in on this huge demand for bold, new flavors before every other competitor jumps in and the market gets totally saturated. And that window, well, it's closing fast. And that leaves us with this final thought. This isn't just a race for 2026. The brands that are able to actually learn from these playbooks, the ones that turn these stories into real, actionable checklists, those are the ones that are going to own the entire decade. The stakes really couldn't be any higher.